Welcome back to the Chasing Tone podcast. Today is a tone tips segment from a recent video called Is It Better to Use an Amp when recording direct in? Comparison using impulse responses. So really it's this. It's very convenient running direct in, whether late night recording, whether you're practicing at home, whether you're gigging at church or some club. In this tone tips segment, I'm going to, I'll compare running direct in with pedals into an amp using a Two Notes Captor versus just running direct in to my DAW with pedals only using the same impulse responses. Let's jump into it. Well, hello again. A lot of us play in bands, whether you're at church or whether you're gigging on the weekends or maybe you're playing on a larger scale and maybe you're just playing at home. But this applies to all those guys and gals and people. So right now, what I'm really wanting to show you is the difference between going from using impulse responses, going from the pedals to the amp, then into the impulse response, versus just running your pedals direct. Obviously, there's going to be a difference, but I thought it might be fun to actually show you the difference because a lot of us will just take a pedal board and maybe just because of it's a lot easier to just run it into an impulse response box of some sort. And sometimes you still there's still a lack of tone. There's still a lack of feel, lack of harmonics, lack of a lot of things. Let's demonstrate that real quick. So right now I'm running through the Bravado amp, the Wampler head. I'll run pretty much just the tube screamer for this one, I think, just because I'm not doing a concert for you. I'm not showing tonalities of different pedals necessarily, but that may change as I go on. Who knows? So I tend to fly by the seat of my pants. But anyways, going into the amp itself, first my clean tone. All right, and now we turn the tube screamer on. I think I will go with the other pedals just for fun. ODR 1 from Nobles. And for good measure, Euphoria. It's a little hot. So that's into the amp, going into the input of the amp, going into, let's see if you can see it right there, the captor. So the amp head goes into the captor, made by Two Notes. This captor goes into my DAW, my Sapphire Pro. And then from there, I'm going into Logic Pro X, and I'm just simply applying an impulse response of my choice to it. These are going to be Celestion impulse responses. I'm using 3 in total. I have a front mic and a back mic. I forget which mics they are. I'm sorry. Just these are some of the ones I thought sound really good. And then I have a room mic. It's barely mixed in the background, just a little bit. Like again, it's not an actual mic, but it's the impulse response of the mic. So now that you heard the tones through the amp, let's bypass that amp and I'll go directly from the pedal into the input of the Sapphire Pro and into the impulse responses. Okay, so I am using the exact same impulse responses, the exact same balance of volumes on the channels. Harder, I have to turn up the volume on the input of the interface a little bit more, just not the same as the amp. The balance between each 3 of those impulse responses have not changed. So literally guitar, Whitfield Telecaster into each pedal and then into the interface. So first of all, my nose itches. Second of all, my nose itches because it's allergy season. Awesome. But anyways, this is my clean tone. And we'll hit the tube screamer again. As you can tell, it's not nearly as dynamic as it is through an amp. But let's go through the ODR 1. Don't know I hit that note. And then the Euphoria. So there you go. Not exactly the same as through the amp. Running an amp into an impulse response has tremendous results. Love it. It's one of my favorite ways to do it. Probably if you're playing to an audience, smaller audience who's not composed of a bunch of guitar players, probably not going to care that much, just being honest. They just want to have a good time. But us as guitar players, we love having that tone. I know Two Notes has, I think it's called the cab, maybe other different pieces of hardware that can emulate the amp as well. If you're using a smaller device, I forget brand names off the top of my head, but I know there's some devices on the market that are less expensive and they just do impulse response, maybe some rough EQ or something. But still, it's not the same as going through an amp. And thank you so much for listening to the Chasing Tone podcast. I really appreciate it. I hope you guys like it. If you have any comments or questions, you could always email podcast@wamplerpedals.com, and I'll get a response back to you as soon as I can. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next week.